Missing someone.
Yo, what is good, everybody? We're back. Episode 6, Fast Break Podcast. As you can see, it's just me and Luca tonight. Yusuf had some personal business to take care of. But tonight we are going to be talking about free agency. It is Tuesday night. It started on Monday night. So we're going to start with winners and losers of free agency. Me and Luca, we kind of agreed on the winners and losers in the group chat, but we'll start with the winners. Who do you think the winner's been so far?
Well, I mean, the two prominent ones so far, and I think everybody agrees on this, the Lakers and the Bulls, obviously. Yeah. I think really between the two, I don't know who I'm going here as the bigger winner. I think that I want to go ahead and say the Lakers maybe because, I mean, I feel like, they already had that big three we talked about last episode. It's a big if there because of Russ, but I think that all this depth, they went out in free agency and they searched the market for the two things that they needed to. They went in there and they looked for veteran leadership and basically shooting off the bench and good. So really three things. And, they got guys, Malik Monk, Wayne Ellington, Kendrick Nunn was a huge signing for them, which I really liked, bringing some youth, Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, et cetera, all the, 1 or 2 year deals. I thought that was really interesting. I think that's actually going to really push them over the hump. And they really surprised me with how well they did this free agency so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously shooting was a big struggle for the Lakers last year. I read a stat that 3 of the guys they signed shot better than anyone on the team last year. Talking about Malik Monk, from 3 at least, Malik Monk, Melo, and Wayne Ellington. So with these signings and most of all the shooting that they gained from free agency, does this make them the favorites for next year?
I think it definitely does, at least early favorites. I mean, if we're disregarding injury and stuff like that, I think that, they have the big three, but they have something else that a team like the Nets doesn't really, in my opinion, and they are a lot deeper than, the Bucks, even the Nets. I think they're a lot deeper. I think that's what's going to push them over the edge. They have more experience. All those things I think are really going to contribute to them being the favorite for sure. Yeah.
And then the Bulls, we both mentioned, we both love the signings. And in episode 1, my hot take was they were a terribly run organization, and I have to take some of that back. They have made a lot of signings. DeRozan, the sign and trade. Lonzo obviously fits their team really well. So they can set out a starting 5 next year of Lonzo, Levine, DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vooch. Where do they rank in the East?
Oh, definitely a playoff team. I mean, I think that last year, my biggest concern, they had a better defensive rating than offensive rating, which shocked me. Yeah. I looked at it today, actually. I couldn't believe it. I did, I watched a handful of Bulls games, but the thing that I thought that they really needed to work on was their defense. It seemed like when Vooch got there, they were an offensive driven team. They didn't really have that defensive grit. But I think guys like Lonzo, guys like Caruso, the 2 guys who they signed day one, I thought, by day one, just signing Lonzo and Caruso, that was huge because they added a lot of backcourt depth. They added playmaking and defensive-oriented guys. I love that. And then, of course, adding DeRozan. I mean, just another star, a guy who's been there for a while, a guy who's turned into a playmaker and isn't a half-bad defender. Who did they get in the sign and trade? Who did they give up? Was it Laurie?
Thad Young. They gave up Thad Young. I believe a pick, maybe.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but that's the other thing, though. The guys they gave back, I mean, Thad Young's a great player. We know this. But, for DeMar, I mean, that's, not too bad. And for Lonzo, I mean, Sato, Garrett Temple in a second. That's a steal.
We're going to move into this because we were talking about this. And I think it needs more recognition. The Pelicans, I mean, just what? I don't have words. They gave up Lonzo Ball for Tomas Satoransky, Garrett Temple, and a second. And we were thinking they were going to try to get someone like Laurie back at least. I mean, I don't even know what to say. What?
I mean, I think because the thing for them is, I was going to say they're starting to hit the reset button, but they can't because they have Brandon Ingram and Zion, 2 very young, promising guys. They can't just hit reset out of nowhere. Zion's not going to stay. Brandon Ingram's going to follow suit. It's not going to work. I think bringing in a guy like Devontae Graham, not a bad, especially at the price they got him. I think they just sent back a pick. So not terrible, but is Devontae Graham really going to push you over the hump? I don't think so. How are we feeling about that Devontae Graham signing? I like it, but like I said, don't think it's going to be,
I like it, and I like the fit. I believe the deal was like 3 for 37, something like that. I think that's kind of his market price. I mean, 12 mil sounds about right.
Mhm.
I'm just kind of confused on the approach they're taking here. I mean, last year they got Bledsoe. I mean, he's gone after 1 year, and Satoransky kind of feels like that. I mean, he'll be a bench guy, I guess, but you give up a dynamic playmaker, fit Zion really well for Satoransky. And I mean, here's my thing: like, where are they going to be in a couple years? Because Zion's not going to stay. Ingram's probably not going to want to stay. And they have the guys like Devontae. Like, are you going to try to build around Devontae Graham and tank and like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, actually, while we're on the topic of losers, because I know obviously New Orleans from the get-go. I mean, Lonzo was the first deal announced, so from the get-go they were pretty much a big loser, especially when the sign trade was announced. All the details. This one's kind of one that I feel like a lot of people haven't been talking about. The San Antonio Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling about them? They lost DeMar, and now Patty Mills going to the Nets. How are we feeling about them?
Yeah, and they signed Doug McDermott, and when I saw the contract, I was a little appalled. I mean, I believe it was 3 for 42, maybe 14 a year.
Something
Fact
like
check me on that. It was something like that. He's going to pay more than Devontae Graham. I mean, like Doug McDermott. I mean, he can shoot. They lost DeRozan, and I feel like okay, now they can at least accept they're kind of in a rebuilding team more than like an 8 or a 9 seed. They can try to build around Keldon, Lonnie, Jacopoto, guys like that. But that's an L. Doug McDermott's your signing. You lose DeRozan, who was your guy, the guy you make the plan this past year. And I mean, like, here's my thing with this signing. Does it kind of make sense that they can go after a guy like Ben Simmons when they really have nothing to lose? If they trade DeJounte Murray for him, could Ben Simmons be a good fit there?
I mean, I think he can now that you lose out on a guy like DeMar, who was obviously the star here. Well, they signed Doug McDermott, as you mentioned, who had a good season last year. 14 mil. I mean, that's I don't think it's crazy, but it's maybe a little bit more. And then Zach Collins, who really cares? But I really think that losing Patty and DeMar, I mean, they just, no matter what, I think from the get-go, this team was destined to take an L because they were losing those two. But I think that it gives them a lot of liberty to now let the young guys get more touches, get more buckets and stuff. And yeah, as you're saying, I mean, Ben Simmons, that could definitely be a potential trade destination. And I think Philly would welcome DeJounte Murray. We've talked about this also before in prior episodes, but he would fit the Sixers to a T. I think he'd do very, very well in Philadelphia. I would love to see, and I would love to see it for both sides. I think it would be great for both sides. But I'm speaking of Philadelphia real quick. Andre Drummond, we are not big fans of Andre Drummond here at Fast Break. At least me and Vinny. I don't know how Yusuf's feeling, but he's going to have to form some kind of opinion because Andre Drummond is now a Philadelphia 76er. I don't remember the exact details of the deal. I know it was a 1-year deal, I believe.
Doesn't matter. I don't really think it matters.
It's an L, right? We're
Yeah,
agreeing
it's
on
an L. It's an L. I saw actually this on TikTok, and I know that's not the best source for basketball info, but you made a good point. It was so you're bringing a guy like Drummond, right? And Drummond does not space the floor, so the spacing, which is already something they struggle with, at least the big guys being able to space the floor, just got very worse. I mean, now if they have Simmons on that team, I would kind of laugh if they roll out a lineup of Simmons and Embiid and Drummond. The spacing on that would be absolutely horrendous. Drummond, I mean, he's kind of taking like the energy guy, like an energy big off the bench. But I think we can agree it's an L, especially for the fit of the Sixers.
Right. I mean, I agree. I mean, obviously, me and you agree a ton on Andre Drummond. I think our Drummond opinions are pretty evenly matched. I think that it was a weird signing for the spacing reason, but also I think what they were really looking for was a defensive guy like Dwight Howard, who they had last year, who was perfect for them off the bench, especially defensively. Andre Drummond's not that either. He's not a defensive big. He allows like 55, his opponents shoot like 55% at the rim. Not a great defender. I'm just thinking now, because there are reports now that Ben Simmons will not get traded because they can't find a deal and they wouldn't mind having him back. If that's the case, the Drummond signing, having Ben Simmons back, not being able to get a deal, is Daryl Morey already on the hot seat?
Oh yeah, he would be on the hot seat. Ben Simmons, especially after Game 7, obviously the viral clip of him passing up the wide open layup. That if that boils into next year, and you have a team with Ben Simmons, the fans are going to be like, how are they going to feel about this team with Ben Simmons? Everyone's like, oh yeah, Ben Simmons sucks, but he's going to be on your team next year, so you're just going to have to roll with it. He's on the hot seat. Questionable signings. I mean, I liked that they re-signed Korkmaz. I think that was a good re-signing, but he's on the hot seat. I mean, he has to do something. He has to make some kind of effort to make the team better. And I don't think Andre Drummond's that. But I mean, if he trades Ben Simmons, I think that would definitely be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think Philly definitely needs a new look. But moving on to another team that has been pretty disappointing this free agency, I feel like we might have a lot of words to say about this team. Me and you are both Celtics fans, and so we have been thoroughly disappointed at least I have been thoroughly disappointed in Brad Stevens so far. We have made no new signings. It's been already a day of free agency. We've lost Semi Ojeleye to the Bucks and also Evan Fournier to the Knicks, it seems. Where do we even go from here? I mean,
so what do the Celtics need coming into the offseason? I think we agreed on that. They need a point guard, right? My poster fell. We will pick that up later. They needed a point guard, right? So they needed a point guard. Lonzo Ball, okay, first minute, he goes to the Bulls. Okay, we kind of expected it. Okay, at least we have Spencer Dinwiddie, right? Maybe we can get Spencer. No, Spencer goes to the Wizards that night. Okay. Me and you were talking, at least we can get Kendrick Nunn, right? No, Kendrick Nunn's going to go to the Lakers and take an absolute massive pay cut. We don't keep Fournier, which I guess with the contract, I mean, it's a high contract, but you're not signing anyone. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to keep him around. You're losing Semi Ojeleye even. This is what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid Brad's going to go on Twitter, oh my God, Brad, we hate you. Get out. And he's going to overpay for give a really stupid contract to a point guard. Like a Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson's a good player. But I'm afraid that he is going to give an absolute bag to Reggie Jackson. And we were going to be stuck with Reggie Jackson, who's a good player, but he's going to be on like $20 million a year or something ridiculous. And I heard that he wanted to clear out the cap space for next offseason in hopes that Brad Beal doesn't sign that extension and maybe we can bring him to Boston. But that's a big if. I mean, Brad, we know he's been loyal to the Wizards. He says he wants to stay. I mean, here's my thing. This year, expectations definitely lowered. My expectations are bottom tier playoff team maybe, with the Jays being obviously amazing, the rest of the team being pretty poor. But if we go into next offseason, I know it's a while, but if we go into next offseason and we do not get anyone and we're stuck with the same team, it's an absolute L. Brad Stevens is not on the hot seat yet. It's literally been 2 months, but I mean, definitely could have been better starts. Even Patty Mills.
Right.
Patty Mills. Oh, maybe let's get Patty Mills. He's a good shot maker, can shoot the ball. Good veteran presence. No, he's going to the Nets. I mean, the Celtics have been – I saw this on Twitter. The Celtics are linked with so many guys, and they never sign anyone. They're always beat out by another team. They're always interested in someone. They never get them. I've talked a lot. What are your thoughts on the Celtics so far?
I mean, I agree with you. I'm very disappointed. Look, I understand. I can be a patient fan, even though it's hard. I understand, Brad wants to go out there, wait till 2022. It's going to be a better free agency draft class. We all know this. But the thing is, this team has so many holes. All around depth is needed. We need a better point guard. Marcus Smart running the point wasn't really it, to be honest. And we'll get to him later. But we also need a backup center because we just traded Moses Brown away to the Mavs. We have a lot of holes. This is not a contender team. We went from Eastern Conference Finals to, troublesome team within the matter of 2 years. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But we didn't go out and sign a single guy. Like you said, we were in the talks. We were interested in 7 or 8 free agents at the beginning of this free agency period, and all of those guys are gone now. And I don't even know who we'd get at this point. There's nobody we can really get for a good deal that we needed. We need depth. We didn't go out and get it. I'm pretty upset with Brad right now. So I think really free agency is not going to be the place where we continue to build on the depth. I think what we're going to need to do is explore some trade options here. The number one guy that comes to mind, obviously, Marcus Smart. He's been in trade talks. Brad has been reported as saying that he does not like Marcus Smart's inconsistent play. I agree with him. And I know you're a big Marcus Smart guy. Obviously, as a Celtics fan, I love Marcus Smart. As a person, as a player, high energy guy, great locker room guy. We both agree on these things. But I think that his level of play this past season, at least, was very inconsistent. And I think that it's kind of been wavering for the past couple of years. I think that we might need to look to move on from him. What are your thoughts on trading Marcus Smart?
Marcus Smart, I absolutely love Marcus Smart. He makes me a Celtics fan. His play, I love him. I want Marcus Smart on the team because he's an energy guy, like you said, heart and soul of the team every year. Without Marcus Smart, the team just would fall apart. But I think if the price is right, like you said, and I've had a change of heart over the last couple of days, you have to explore the trade, and I'm going to explain why. The team right now, it's not a contender. It's not with the Bucks, the Sixers. That's where we want to be. And you're going to have to make some kind of changes. And as much as I love Marcus, if the change is getting a better point guard that's a better fit for the team, takes less dumb shots, trust me, we watch Celtics games. Marcus Smart takes a lot of dumb shots. He hits them sometimes, but a lot of dumb shots. If like Alonzo, I'm not saying Alonzo, but Alonzo type, pass first, good defensive point guard, help out the Jays, give them touches. I think you got to do it. And it's nothing against Marcus. He will always be a Celtics legend. Everyone will love him. Mm-hmm. But sometimes things just come to an end. And I think we might be starting to see the end of Marcus Smart. Maybe. I mean, if I had to give a prediction, I think he is on the team this year. I think Brad rolls out a similar team to last year. I think they're a similar seed in the East, similar outcome in the playoffs. But I think trade deadline maybe or next year's offseason, Marcus is going to be gone. They're going to try to rebuild. Yeah, retool. Rebuild's kind of disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, we still have two superstars on the team. Yeah. Yes, I'm calling Jaylen Brown a superstar because he is a superstar. Do not get twisted. But, yeah, I mean, Marcus, man, just, not a big fan. I think, I put this earlier in the group chat a couple of days ago at least. Under 40% the past couple of seasons, shooting from the field. His three-point percentage has even been wavering. He did get his assist numbers up this year, but I think that was as a result of losing really a good playmaker. I mean, Kemba was out for a majority of the season too, so Marcus had to kind of fill in. It was a weird year, so I'm hoping for the best for next season. I don't know what that entails. Hopefully we are still in the playoffs. Hopefully we're in the playoff conversation at least. Yeah, it's going to be a roller coaster though, for sure.
And I have another team close to Boston. They play in our division, the New York Knicks. I've had I don't even know what to call it, an interesting free agency. They brought Derrick Rose back, lost Reggie Bullock, brought Alex Burks back, and Noel, obviously Fournier. What have your early thoughts been on the Knicks so far?
I mean, I was definitely expecting them to go out and get, somebody, some like bigger name, like Lonzo Ball. I mean, I'm not going to talk too much on him because I think we all knew he was going to the Bulls. It was kind of a done deal from the beginning a little bit, but I was definitely expecting them to go out and be in the conversation for a lot of big name guys. And then the first moves they did was extend or, re-sign Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks to some pretty lengthy deals, which was a little bit surprising. Yeah. They brought in Fournier to replace Bullock, I guess. Huge W. I don't know the exact terms of it. I don't know if they've been released yet.
4 for 78.
I mean, a little bit overpaying Evan Fournier, but still, I mean, I think he could fit that team great. He brings the offense, he brings the defense. Great player, underrated player. Evan Fournier is great. Hopefully they can re-sign Derrick Rose. Their point guard situation was one that I think we should touch on real quick. They had a very troublesome point guard situation. Obviously, Elfrid Payton last year was abominable, one of the worst scorers in the league statistically. Absolutely horrible. Shot the ball terribly inconsistently, streaky player. And even when he was on, he wasn't that great. I think they really need to add more offense here. I think adding Evan Fournier was a good move. They were weird. I don't really know what to make of it. I think they thought they were good enough this year, and they just fell short in the playoffs. Working on player development will just be huge. I mean, maybe free agency just wasn't the place where they needed to get better. Maybe it's just in the gym, in practices, just, working on the team chemistry, really.
Yeah, a free agent, this was interesting. Free agent point guard, obviously, he's been linked to a lot of teams. He wanted north of 20 mil a year, apparently. Dennis Schroder. Early thoughts on Dennis. Is he going to go back to the Lakers? I seeing that for like a massive pay cut. Or some team just going to give him a contract, and it's not going to be north of 20 mil, but he's just going to take the contract and go there.
Well, I think first thing that Dennis Schroder needs to do, like right now, if you're watching this, I'm gonna give you a little tutorial on how to maybe get a deal. So first thing, take your phone, ring your agent real quick, fire him. I don't know who's telling him. What agent is telling you that you are worth $20 million? Dennis Schroder, you're a great player. I love your game a little bit. He's good. $20 million in this market, 2025. He wanted a 120 million deal somewhere around there. Not worth it. Not a million years, especially after his playoff performance. He did not prove that he was in that category. He wanted $100 million. There's only, I believe, 11 point guards, I saw this, that are getting paid that kind of deal. 10 of them are all-stars. One of them is Jamal Murray, obviously an all-star talent. I don't know what makes Dennis Schroder think that he is an all-star talent. This year, he was not. He did alleviate some of the playmaking pressure off LeBron. That's always a great thing. But scoring-wise, nope. Just really a middling player this year. Definitely not worth that kind of money. I think that unless he lowers that asking price, he's going to be sitting at home on his couch to start this season, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, Dennis, the Fast Break podcast could always open an agency. We would sign you, and we would tell you your market price is not 20 million. I don't know really where needs a point guard, like the Celtics, the Raptors, the Knicks. I mean, here's my thing. Dennis Schroeder is a good player, and if he asks for like 5 for 50 or 5 for 55, 5 for 60 even, 10 to 12 a year, maybe 15 is pushing it, I think he can get a contract, but I just don't know what's going on in his brain that he wants 20 mil. I don't think he'll be on the Lakers. I think he'll go somewhere and take a pay cut from the 20 million that he wanted.
I agree. I mean, because keep in mind, he's really a six man at heart. He kind of just lucked out in getting the the starting job for the Lakers this year, through the trade it was, right? Yeah, through the trade. I just, I don't think this was the right fit. He put up good, points per game numbers and, assists per game numbers, but his efficiency wasn't the greatest. He just didn't look comfortable in a Lakers jersey. So I'm not too comfortable. I'm not too crazy about him signing 20 million. But speaking of another point guard who a lot of people, I think he's flying under the radar of a lot of people. No talks about him so far from what I've seen from, Shams, Woj, those guys. Victor Oladipo. How are we feeling about him? What's going on? A lot of people are saying that he may not sign a contract for the first couple months of the season. I mean, how are we feeling about Victor Oladipo? Does he still need to prove himself?
Vic, he has to prove himself a bit, and I hate to say it, but why the frick not? Go to the Lakers, Vic. You can go to the Lakers, and I'm going to explain why. First of all, the Lakers will literally take anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're going to sign for the minimum, you can go to the Lakers. I could go to the Lakers for the minimum and play. Victor Oladipo, he is in a prove himself year. Injuries obviously have held him back a lot since Indiana. And first, I think Brown would love to have a guy like Vic. He could get buckets off the bench. I don't know if Vic is willing to take that big of a pay cut to play this year. I think the Lakers will be a good fit. I think the Nets, pretty much any team looking for a minimum guy that can get buckets. And Vic's if he wants a contract for a long and decent amount of money, then he's going to have to prove himself this year. And I think that's a good place to do it. Is he restricted or unrestricted?
He's unrestricted.
Unrestricted. So Miami. Miami could work if he takes a small deal. He could come off the bench, maybe even start. Is Vic playing on opening night next year?
To be honest with you, I would not. I'm going to go ahead and make a bold prediction. I think he's not going to be playing because I think the teams are very hesitant to offer him. I'm sure he's going to want a lot of money. He's Victor Oladipo. He's been an all-star. He's been there, done that. I think he's going to want a lot of money. I don't think teams are going to want to give it to him. because we all know that he can be a great player. He doesn't have the the Dennis Schroder, effect Candyland, dilemma in his head where he thinks he's worth. No, he can be worth, around however much he's going to be asking for, 20, 25 million, but he's not right now because he's not at 100%. I think he needs to work on it. Come maybe, middle of the year next season, maybe we'll see him getting some action, but start of the season, no, I think he's going to need to prove himself and wait until the time comes, to go find the right team, really.
Yeah, I agree. Vic, we wish you the best of luck. We like you, man. Hopefully find a team.
One team that actually just came in my mind, and we can actually maybe talk about them and then maybe wrap this up. The Dallas Mavericks, they failed to sign or really even acquire a big name guy, a third star pairing alongside Luka, which Luka's desperately voiced that he does want another star pairing. Victor Oladipo, could he work on the Mavs? And furthermore, how are the Mavs looking? They signed Sterling Brown. They re-signed Tim Hardaway Jr. and Boban. What's going on in Dallas?
They also signed Reggie Bullock. That to me went on the radar. I forgot about that. It was around $10 million a year. I think he fits the Mavericks well. He can shoot it. That's what you need in Dallas. Tim Hardaway. I think I think it's a good contract. 18 mil around. Sterling Brown, literally just don't know why Sterling Brown's getting an NBA contract. I mean, he showed flashes, I guess, with the Rockets. Pretty much anyone did. I think Vic could work on Dallas if he can even be half of what he was in Indiana. I think that would take a lot of pressure off Luka. He can get buckets. He can help Luka. Porzingis is he is the key, though, in my opinion. Porzingis in the playoffs, he was the playoff P, not Paul George. He was terrible. Throwing a brick, shooting from 30 feet. He doesn't go in the paint. But if Porzingis is healthy and can be Kristaps Porzingis, and they pair Victor Oladipo, Dallas could be, in my opinion, maybe a Western Conference Finals team if they're pushing it.
I agree. And, speaking more on Porzingis, I think that he needed another playmaker. I mean, Luka, obviously top tier playmaker in the league, but I think that giving them, and this is, another key, all the great playmakers in this league, they can't take the entire load on themselves. They need another guy to come in and kind of help take on that load, as we see with Bron getting Russell Westbrook. Luka needs a guy like that. Victor Oladipo, not a terrible playmaker. He definitely has playmaking capabilities for sure. So giving Luka a guy like Victor Oladipo will also in turn help a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, who can't really create shots in his own. He feeds off playmaking from his teammates. He feeds off good teammate play in general. So I think that, if you sign a guy like Victor Oladipo, if he's playing at, his tip-top game, he can help the team as a whole. He can help Kristaps Porzingis. He can help Luka Doncic, and he can probably push them over the edge. And I agree with you. I think, maybe Western Conference Finals. It is a loaded Western Conference. We have to remember that.
Yeah.
Western Conference Finals is always a possibility here. Personally, I don't know. Their free agency signings, they focused a lot on adding more depth, something that I don't think they needed because they already had decent depth. And even the position in which they added depth, even the positions in which they added depth, they didn't really need it there. I feel like they could have focused more towards like power forward and stuff. But, I don't know. Decent signings. Hope they sign Dipo. That could actually be a solid spot. Maybe he will be playing there next season, but we'll just have to see, I guess.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to mention, the Olympics. I haven't really been watching that much Olympics related to basketball. I did see, I believe her name is Sydney McLaughlin. The tweet popped up. We were talking about it before. She set the record in the track and field event, but we talk basketball mostly here. So Slovenia versus France and Australia versus United States. Who's your predictions? What is it here?
Quick predictions. Slovenia is taking down France. I think Luka cannot be stopped. I don't know if you guys heard that in the background. Apologies. I'm outside right now. Slovenia is taking down France. I think they might low-key win the gold medal. I think I said France in an early video as my prediction.
Everyone said France in the earlier video, which is really, really odd.
Yeah, I think I might change it, man. I think I might be going Slovenia. I think Luka cannot be stopped. Zoran Dragic. I don't know if you've heard of him, but apparently, dude's a beast, apparently. And I feel like the USA has been playing pretty good basketball recently. I did not get the chance to watch their game against Spain because it was at 12:40. It's pretty late. I was tired. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like they'll be able to topple Australia, and I think they're getting silver. I think that's my predictions, and I think Australia is going to be taking home the bronze. I'm knocking France out of the equation. Actually, ooh. Well, tell me your predictions. I want to hear what you're saying.
You have Slovenia. You have Slovenia winning the gold.
I think they could.
Okay, my prediction are very similar. I have Slovenia winning. I think Luka Doncic, he has a loss with Slovenia 17-0. He's absolutely amazing. Yeah, so I think Luka Doncic is just going to absolutely – I think he's going to beat France. I changed my mind. USA, I think they'll top Australia barely, very slightly, but I'm going to go the opposite. I think the USA is going to bring home the gold. I know it hasn't been the best U.S. team, but I think they'll beat Slovenia. And then for the third place game, we have the same third place game. So on the count of three, say who's going to win.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Australia.
All right, we got
it.
We got it. So we're knocking France completely out of the equation here. All right. I mean, anything can happen. I don't think that anybody on Team USA is going to be able to hold Luka, but that's what the Olympics are for. Anything can happen, I guess. Any closing remarks? We covered a lot, mostly free agency, some Olympic stuff. What's going on?
Yeah.
How we ending this?
That's it. Next episode should be, if everything goes to plan, a mukbang where we release our early predictions for next year. We're going to be grubbing on some checkers because Luka put me on, and that will be fun. But that was episode 6. We're 4 subs away from 50. Get us to there ASAP. Tell your grandmas, your second cousins, and your cat's friends. And we're out. Peace.